Howdy gamers, in this video I'm going to be going over my initial thoughts on what runes I think are going to be good on Volibear and can get you started on the champion at the very least. These are going to be my first impressions. Any updates or innovations that happen with the champion I'll hopefully make a video on later and you can subscribe for that, but take these things with a grain of salt. But also I do think that things are pretty simple for him. So for Volibear, I think that jungle is his best role. I think that support Volibear is dead, and I think that top lane is probably his okay secondary role. For the keystones, I think that his only viable options right now are going to be Aftershock and Press the Attack. With Aftershock, you gain a lot more durability, and then you get access to just tons of effective HP from this tree. So you could run Demolish if you're trying to play for for turret plating, and then also extra gold. You could run Font of Life to assist your team, and then Shield Bash for extra damage. The easiest one to run would be Demolish, but I do think Shield Bash and Font of Life are fine. For the third row, I think that Conditioning and Bone Plating, really depending on if you're going to play for early game, you want Bone Plating, and then if you want to play for the mid to late game, then Conditioning is always going to be beating it out. And then for the fourth row, you're choosing on effective HP from Overgrowth, Healing and Shielding from Revitalize, or Tenacity and Slow Resist from Unflinching. I think you want to look to run Overgrowth as your default, but if you are playing into a lot of CC, champions like Thresh, Leona, etc., you could run Unflinching in combination with Legend Tenacity. If you have Unflinching with Legend Tenacity and Merc Treads, the enemy's not going to be able to stop you from getting on to targets and staying on them because you just have too much tenacity. And then with Triumph, it's not a bad rune either. And then for the secondary runes, I think that a good default is Magical Footwear and Approach Velocity. Approach Velocity helping you stay on targets. You have tons of ways to slow them with Volibear with your Smite, Red Buff, and E, and with your ult. So once you get onto them, it's important to stay onto them, and Approach Velocity helps you do that. With Magical Footwear, you're saving 300 gold, which is pretty nice for a tank jungler, and then also gain plus 10 movement speed. For the shards, I think that attack speed, armor, and scaling health is probably going to be the best, as you don't need the double adaptive force. If you're trying to play things more aggressively or playing in the top lane or something, Press the Attack is going to be your best damage option rune. As Volibear has an auto attack reset, you also expose the enemy, so you could have a slower initial combo, but then once you've exposed them with Press the Attack, then you can land your E and ult onto them, therefore enhancing the damage that those deal. But the damage that Press the Attack is giving you isn't really needed or as meaningful as Aftershock in my opinion. But Press the Attack is your best option as a damage rune because other runes like Electrocute, Predator, Grasp, all of those like really suck and don't achieve as much as Press the Attack can for Volibear, whether you're playing him top lane or jungle. So with Press the Attack, puts you in the precision tree. Press the Attack again, giving you bonus damage for auto attacking the enemy champion 3 times, which is so easy for Volibear. A Q auto W and you've procced it, and then you can dump the rest of your combo along with your second W. And then for the second row in the precision tree, Triumph's going to be your only option. Volibear doesn't need the Mono Presence of Mind, and he also doesn't benefit from the healing. For the third row, you could use Alacrity if the enemy has no CC, and even if they have like the lightest forms of CC, something like a Cinder Stun or something, you could consider Legend Tenacity. But you can be pretty greedy with Alacrity because this attack, like you're not going to be able to purchase attack speed, but you are going to be able to purchase Tenacity in game, so consider it. And then for the fourth rune, I think that Coup de Grace is going to be your best option. Last Stand is generally really useful for bruisers, but Volibear only has a lot of burst. He doesn't have a lot of sustained DPS, and it's also very hard for him to get low on HP because of his shield and his ult. So it's very hard to get low enough to benefit from Last Stand, and then once you're benefiting from Last Stand, like you're really just empowering your auto attack and then maybe 1 W damage. So really you're doing nothing. You're way better off increasing the damage that you're dealing to targets that are low because you have so much initial burst. And then if you're running something like Press the Attack, you're really playing to cheese anyways, so Coup de Grace helps you do that and helps you finish off targets. If you are running the Press the Attack page, you could potentially make okay value out of the double adaptive force, whether you're top lane or jungle. Or you could even just go attack speed, adaptive force, and then scaling health. For the secondary runes, I think you should look to run Shield Bash and then Overgrowth if you are running this. And the top lane, you could potentially just run Second Wind and Shield Bash to have just as much early game power as you possibly could. So that's my thoughts on like what I think are just your best options that you have and the runes that are strong on Volibear. I'm going to go a bit more in depth, but if this is as far as you want to go in the video, that's completely fine. Leave a like on the video. Peace out. Hope you have fun with the new Volibear. I think the rework's awesome. So, looking at all of the runes again, like any of the utility options for Volibear really does suck. Omnistone could be okay, but he doesn't use Spellbook that well. Even if you were to run like the Nimbus Cloak Celerity page for Volibear, I think that Aftershock would just generally be more useful in the jungle role, as the durability that's offered, especially come mid to late game, is probably going to be beating out having like say a Cleanse, a Ghost, an Ignite, an Exhaust, a Teleport, etc. And Volibear also doesn't clear the jungle like particularly fast like other junglers, and he dies to the jungle as well until way later in the game. So this isn't terrible. I'm not ruling out Unsealed Spellbook, but its applicability is a lot harder. Glacial is completely useless. Omnistone could be good in the top lane, given some matchups, but I don't think Volibear is going to be that good in the top lane, just given the nature of his kit. Like, put Volibear against any ranged top laner. Put Volibear against any strong melee top laner. He's going to have a really impossible time. But he does have ways to force on the enemy with his jungler that totally flips any concepts you can really have. But if you're playing him in the top lane and you're trying to do exactly that, like dive the enemy top laner, Aftershock's going to be helping you do that. With Aftershock, you're getting more durability, you're getting the bonus stats, and let's say you're going for a dive with your jungler, you Q the enemy top laner, you have Aftershock going, and then for 2.5 seconds, basically you can tank 2 turret shots, and then as the turret shots are getting empowered every single shot, then you ult the turret, and then it's disabled when it's strongest. So therefore, you're just avoiding way more meaningful damage. But without Aftershock, you have a harder time doing that. For, like I mentioned with these runes, like I think Demolish is the easiest solo queue option, especially like on release, as whenever you get a successful gank off, you are just able to get turret plates with Demolish faster. Because whenever Volibear has a successful gank, it's harder for him to go back to his camps because it just takes him a long time. So Volibear staying in a lane and then getting the turret plates isn't the worst thing compared to other junglers. Volibear gets really, really good value out of Font of Life. With Font of Life, impairing the movement of an enemy champion marks them for 4 seconds. Ally champions who attack mark enemies heal for 5 plus 1% of your max health over 2 seconds. It just adds to the supportive capability that Volibear offers. Even though he is like this attack engine, having that effective HP for your teams in such a free way where you can apply it in so many different ways is just really, really useful. Unless you're playing with like a bunch of mages or something that can't get auto attacks in, I think that Font of Life's just pretty high value. With Shield Bash, it's also fairly solid on him, especially where it combos so well with Aftershock, giving you more burst on a target. With Shield Bash, while you're shielded, you gain 1 to 10 armor and magic resist based on your level. When you gain a new shield, your next basic attack against a champion deals 5 to 30, plus 1.5 bonus health, plus 8.5 new shield amount. So it doesn't deal a crazy amount, but it does deal a little bit, and then those little bit of resistances are like, it's just free value. It's not crazy insane, but it does just synergize so well with how his kit goes. But Font of Life is generally higher value. But I do think that Shield Bash will have its place. And with the third runes, I think that you should be looking to run conditioning almost every single time in the jungle. Even against earlier junglers, you could just outpath them and then not have to interact with them. So in that case, like bone plating doesn't give you as much value. Even though bone plating has some scaling, the scaling on the stats is going to synergize a lot better with gargoyles and in general with your entire kit. So I think that conditioning should be your go-to. In the top lane, second wind's probably going to be better, as the effective HP you can get in the laning phase is just always, it's just so hard to beat. And then overgrowth with the effective HP. It's really hard to beat that. With Revitalize, like you do have healing and shielding in your kit, but the healing is just way toned down on the reworked Volibear compared to old Volibear. So, and he's not a champion that, like, he does get a shield, don't get me wrong, but like he's not a Taric that's casting a heal and a shield like every 2 seconds. It's just not the same thing. So Other like a champion like Tarek versus a Volibear. Like which one uses Revitalize way better? Like obviously Tarek, and then Volibear with that maximum health gain is just going to be more useful because the more HP you have to play with, just the better champion Volibear becomes inevitably. With the Precision Tree secondary, I think you should be looking to run it whenever you're playing into a lot of CC, and then playing with Triumph and missing out on free boots and approach velocity isn't the worst thing in the world. But my problem with Triumph is that you're usually, even if you do get this HP regen for Volibear, I think that it's harder for Volibear to get back into a fight once a fight's been started. I think Volibear starts the fight and is either winning it or isn't, and Triumph might not be doing anything in a lot of cases. So that really sucks. For the domination tree, there's just nothing useful here. Like the most useful things, Cheap Shot and Relentless Hunter, where you're getting extra damage and extra movement speed. The extra movement speed out of combat isn't going to actually help you get onto targets that weren't going to die anyways, and the extra true damage from Cheap Shot isn't doing that much either. Just isn't doing enough, I should say. Like maybe Ultimate Hunter could be okay, but then everything else is just useless. Sudden Impact, where you could have 6 Magic Pin and 7 Lethality whenever you ult, is kind of silly, but not good at all. And the Sorcery Tree, I suppose you could use Nimbus Cloak Celerity or Nullifying Orb in Celerity. My problem with Nullifying Orb on tanks is that they're usually just better off getting Magic Resist, and it's so easy for Volibear to get Magic Resist, whether it be Gargoyles, Merc Treads, or Locket, or even Spirit Visage, or Adaptive Helm, or even an Abyssal Mask if he has AP on his team. Like, he just has almost every option in the game outside of Banshee's Veil. So, with Nullifying Orb, it gives you this magic damage shield, but it's so much more useful on squishier champions, like ADCs and mid laners. This rune is just getting more mileage. With Nimbus Cloak and Celerity, like I mentioned, I think it's just overkill. You don't need that much movement speed to stay on a target, and that's really it. With the Inspiration Tree, I think you have good options in Hextech Flash, Free Boots, Perfect Timing, and Approach Velocity. Cosmic Insight's kind of weird because you could potentially speed up your clear with the W with Cosmic Insight, but it's just not necessary. Once you have Balmy Cinder, that's where you really start speeding up your clear. You're not going to speed up the first clear other than like by a couple of seconds with Cosmic Insight, and it's not making or breaking things, so I don't think it's that necessary. With Approach Velocity, being able to stay on targets is good. With Hextech Flash, it could give you more versatility and more options to force in solo queue. So I think it's probably going to be really dominant, especially in the Asian regions like KR and China. They already like using Hextech Flash on champions like Xin Zhao, so Volibear is probably going to be a no-brainer. With Free Boots, though, it's going to give you a really consistent option. Being able to save 300 gold on a tank jungler is also just super strong, and having that extra movement speed is just icing on the cake. You could also go Perfect Timing. Going Perfect Timing is going to accelerate your build path into Gargoyles and also give you the one-time stopwatch in the mid game. My problem with stopwatch on Volibear is that it's kind of the same thing with Triumph. Like, you're either winning the fight or you're not with your initial engage, and that's basically that. So having a stall with stopwatch is generally useful, but the applicability with Volibear I think goes down a bit. And then for the shards, I think that attack speed, armor, and scaling health is probably going to be best. I've tried a solo clear with every variation: double adaptive force, attack speed, armor, and then attack speed, armor, and scaling health. You're not really speeding it up at all with any variations. Unless you're doing 3 camps into a gank, you have a faster 3 camps into gank with Hunter's Machete and then double adaptive force. But I think more often than not that you should be looking to just full clear on Volibear with your first clear, or at least 4 camp into Scuttle into a full clear and then reset. But when ganks can present themselves, you could run the double adaptive force. But yeah, something like Phase Rush is also just complete overkill. If you're actually trying to get more movement speed, Nimbus Cloak is going to be it. If you're playing against champions like Ezreal, for example, maybe you would run Nimbus Cloak Celerity, but generally they're just lower value. And then Phase Rush is just complete overkill. At that point, you might as well be running Nimbus Cloak with Unsealed Spellbook, because that's going to be giving you more movement speed, as you can be casting the summoner spells as you're running the champion down. But yeah, and then Predator, just complete cheese, not very good. Conqueror's not very good on jungle or top lane, because building up bonus AD isn't super wild for Volibear, and he's better off having a better trading tool with Press the Attack or Aftershock in the top lane. And then also his all-in, he has more burst than he does all-in, so Conqueror just loses tons of value, and also like the AD scalings just aren't there. That's really my thoughts on it. Lethal Tempo could be hilarious, but not that useful. And yeah, Hello Blades also could be really funny, but not that useful probably. Yeah, that's my initial thoughts. Bye. See ya. Really hope this video helped. Let me know how your Volibear games are going. I really think the rework is just awesome. Alrighty. Bye-bye. See ya. Love Volibear. Love